The room buzzed with the clinking of champagne glasses and the hum of over 200 guests. Their laughter echoing off the vaulted ceilings of a historic chapel just outside Seattle. Sophia Bennett stood at the edge of the crowd, her fingers tightening around the stem of her wine glass, her heart sinking as the applause swelled. Her younger brother, Ethan, stood under the soft glow of chandeliers, his crisp white tuxedo gleaming beside his radiant bride, Lily. It was a picture-perfect moment, except for one thing. Sophia, the one who had poured her life savings into making this wedding possible, was invisible. No seat at the family table. No mention in the program. No acknowledgement from anyone. At 32, Sophia lived a modest life in a cozy apartment in Tacoma, Washington, working in donor relations for a nonprofit dedicated to helping underprivileged children. Her job wasn't glamorous, but it was her passion. A quiet rebellion against a world that often overlooked the vulnerable. Today, though, was Ethan's wedding, a day she'd funded with $40 of her own money. Every cent meticulously saved over years. Yet, as she scanned the elegant program handed to her at the entrance, her name was nowhere to be found. Not in the family acknowledgements. Not among the speakers. Not even in the list for family photos. She flipped through it again, her stomach twisting, hoping it was a mistake. It wasn't. The realization hit like a cold wave. To her family, she didn't exist. Sophia forced a smile as she approached a server bustling by with a tray of hors d'oeuvres. "Excuse me," she said softly. "Is there a seat for Sophia Bennett?" The young man hesitated, his eyes scanning her simple navy dress. Ma'am, are you with the catering staff?" Her laugh was hollow, masking the sting. "No," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, and retreated to the shadows of the reception hall. Then came the speeches. Her father, James Bennett, took the microphone, his voice steady and warm, the kind that commanded attention. "Thank you all for joining us to celebrate a new chapter in the life of our only child. Ethan." The words sliced through Sophia like ice. Only child. She was Ethan's older sister, the one who'd paid for this entire day. Yet her father's words erased her existence. The applause roared on, oblivious to her presence, as she lowered her glass to her lap, her gaze fixed on the floor. Later, at the gift table, she opened a gold-embossed card, its words searing into her. "To our perfect son. Ethan, our pride, our only child." Her chest tightened, a cold weight settling in. She was a ghost in her own family. Memories flooded back, years spent caring for her grandmother, Eleanor, until her passing, the small financial help she'd given Ethan when he started college, the gifts she'd sent for her parents' anniversaries. All of it, erased. As the photographer called, "Bennett family, please come forward for photos." Her mother, Margaret, raised a hand. "We're all here already," she said, her voice clipped. Sophia stood frozen, unable to speak, her heart a quiet storm. As the reception wound down, her Aunt Laura approached, her brow furrowed. "Sophia, why are you standing here alone? Where's your seat?" Sophia gave a bitter smile, shrugging. "There isn't one. No place card, no table. I'm not even a guest. And I paid for it all." Laura's face darkened. "What? You paid for everything? What's going on?" Sophia looked down, her voice soft but steady. "It's fine. I realized something today. I was never really family to them." Laura took her hand, silent, her grip warm but heavy with unspoken sorrow. As Sophia left the venue, Ethan caught up to her, breathless. "Thanks for coming, Soph. It means a lot." His words stopped her in her tracks. She turned, her voice calm but firm. "Congratulations, Ethan." But actions spoke louder than words. She offered a faint smile and walked away, the chill of the Seattle night brushing against her skin. Back in her apartment, she sat at her kitchen table, opened her journal, and wrote, June 12, 2024. "Today, I let go of the illusion of family. From now on, I reclaim my worth." The ink dried clean, her resolve steady. Days passed, but the weight of the wedding lingered. Sophia's work at the nonprofit kept her busy, coordinating educational programs, reaching out to donors, planning a charity gala, but a shadow clung to her. One night, She pulled out a cardboard box filled with keepsakes from her grandmother. Eleanor, old notebooks, letters, bank statements, relics of a life that once felt whole. A statement caught her eye. Ethan Bennett wedding. Willow Creek venue deposit. $15. The date was 8 months ago. She hadn't questioned it then, trusting her parents' request to surprise Ethan. More invoices followed: venue rental, catering, florists, planners, all totaling nearly $40, drawn from her account. She'd never sought praise, but a simple thank you would have sufficed. Instead, she got silence. Digging deeper, she found a photo from Ethan's college graduation party. Her parents, Ethan, and a few relatives smiled for the camera. But Sophia, who'd organized the event, wasn't in the frame. She checked her mother's social media, where the same photo was posted with the caption, "Our perfect family pride." A message she'd sent that day, "Thanks for today, Mom. You must be tired," had gone unanswered. Like always. Then she opened a small box on her shelf, revealing a photo of her and Eleanor, side by side, laughing. Eleanor had been the only one who truly saw her, always offering kind words when Sophia helped around the house while her mother was too busy. "This brooch is for you," Eleanor had said, pressing an antique silver piece into her hand. "Don't forget to live for yourself." But after Eleanor's death, Margaret had taken the brooch, claiming it belonged to her only grandson, Ethan. Sophia had accepted it without question. Now, the betrayal stung anew. The real blow came when Sophia noticed she hadn't received property tax notices for the past 2 years. Eleanor had left her a small apartment in Tacoma, a charming if aging place that Sophia maintained with care. It was her foundation, a gift from the one person who'd valued her. Logging into the city's property registry, she froze. The ownership wasn't in her name. It was listed under James and Margaret Bennett. The transfer had been recorded 2 weeks before Ethan's wedding, when she'd been consumed with funding the event. Her hands trembling, she tore open an envelope containing Eleanor's will. The words were clear: "I leave this apartment solely to my granddaughter, Sophia Bennett, for her responsibility and integrity." Eleanor had seen her, understood her, but the will had been ignored. The records forged. Checking maintenance records, Sophia confirmed she'd paid for every repair, plumbing, repainting, roof patches, yet the rental income had been redirected to her parents' joint account. She called her Aunt Laura, her voice shaking. "So, you figured it out," Laura said after a long pause. "I'm sorry, Sophia. Your mother said she was just organizing family matters. She insisted we didn't need to tell you." Sophia's voice cracked. "It's mine. Grandma told me." Laura agreed but sounded helpless. The realization settled in, not anger, but a hollow exhaustion. Sophia had been diligent, honest, and that had made her easy to exploit. Determined to act, Sophia contacted Thomas Carter, a lawyer she'd worked with at a children's nonprofit. She laid out everything: her erasure at the wedding, the forged property records, the stolen inheritance. Thomas listened, his expression calm but resolute. "This is serious: inheritance fraud and falsified records. We start with evidence, not emotion." Sophia scanned every document: Eleanor's will, property records, repair invoices, bank statements showing redirected rent, and notes from her call with Laura. She also compiled proof of the wedding expenses, transfers, emails with the planner, statements. "You didn't tell Ethan about the payments?" Thomas asked. Sophia nodded. "No. My parents said they wanted it to be a surprise. I believed them." Thomas's eyes softened. "You were deceived, but you don't have to stay deceived. You have legal standing." For the first time in weeks, Sophia felt she could breathe. Thomas hired a handwriting expert to analyze the forged signature on the property transfer. A week later, he called with the results. The signature was a sloppy imitation, not Eleanor's. The truth was undeniable. This wasn't a mistake, but a calculated theft. Thomas drafted a legal notice demanding immediate restoration of the apartment's ownership, a formal apology and compensation for altering Eleanor's will, full reimbursement of the wedding expenses, with interest. Reading the draft, Sophia exhaled. This wasn't about revenge, it was about protecting her worth. Something she'd let others trample for too long. But doubts lingered. How would her parents react? Did Ethan know anything? What would family mean after this? Before the lawsuit, Sophia chose to confront her extended family. Laura arranged a dinner at a Seattle restaurant, reserving a private room for uncles, cousins, and family friends. James, Margaret, and Ethan attended. Sophia entered, her mother offering a tight smile. Her father silent. She handed out copies of the evidence, Eleanor's will, the forged records, the wedding invoices, and spoke. Her voice steady. This is why I'm taking legal action. My grandmother's will was altered. My apartment was stolen. I was erased from this family. I paid for Ethan's entire wedding. Yet I didn't even have a seat. The room fell silent, eyes darting between the papers and Sophia. Ethan stared, stunned. I had no idea you paid for it. Or the apartment. Sophia nodded. I want to believe you didn't know. But you still have a responsibility. Margaret stood abruptly. What good does this do? You think tearing this family apart will bring you peace? Sophia's gaze didn't waver. It was broken long before today. I'm just standing up for the truth. James avoided her eyes, his silence deafening. The documents passed through the room, the truth spreading like wildfire. The perfect image of the Bennett family began to crumble. The courtroom in downtown Seattle was a quiet cathedral of truth, its oak-paneled walls absorbing the weight of Sophia Bennett's story. At 32, she stood tall, her navy blazer crisp against the muted light filtering through tall windows. Months had passed since the wedding of her younger brother, Ethan, where she'd been erased, her $40 contribution to the event ignored. Her name absent from every program. Her existence dismissed by her father's words, our only child. Now, as she faced her family in court, Sophia wasn't seeking revenge, she was reclaiming her life. Piece by hard-won piece. The evidence was airtight. Thomas Carter, her lawyer, presented a mountain of documents, her grandmother Eleanor's will, which left Sophia a Tacoma apartment, the forged property records transferring it to her parents. James and Margaret Bennett, bank statements showing Sophia's payments for Ethan's wedding, and a handwriting analysis confirming the signature on the transfer was a clumsy fake. Sophia's aunt, Laura, had testified, her voice trembling as she recounted Margaret's insistence on organizing family matters, without Sophia's knowledge. The truth was undeniable, and yet her parents sat across the room, their faces a mix of defiance and desperation. James, her father, a once respected tech executive, avoided her gaze, his jaw tight. Margaret, her mother, clutched her purse, her perfectly manicured nails digging into the leather. Ethan, seated beside them, looked pale, his eyes darting between Sophia and the floor. The judge, a woman with silver-streaked hair and a measured tone, delivered the verdict. The will of Eleanor Bennett is declared valid. The apartment is to be legally returned to the plaintiff, Sophia Bennett. The defendants are ordered to compensate her for all related financial damages, including wedding expenses and accrued interest. Sophia closed her eyes, her breath steady. It wasn't triumph she felt, not the kind that comes with gloating or vengeance. It was something quieter, deeper, a return to her dignity, a restoration of her place in the world. The courtroom was silent, save for the soft rustle of papers as Thomas gathered his files. Outside, the Seattle rain fell in a gentle drizzle, washing the city clean as Sophia stepped onto the courthouse steps. For the first time in years, she felt solid, grounded, like the earth beneath her feet was hers to claim. The fallout for the Bennett family was swift and merciless. James's tech company, once a darling of Seattle's startup scene, unraveled under scrutiny. The trial had exposed more than just the forgery. Whispers of accounting irregularities surfaced, fueled by shareholders who'd long suspected mismanagement. Within weeks, James was forced out, his reputation in tatters. He traded his corner office for a nondescript consulting gig, a shadow of the man who'd once commanded boardrooms. Margaret, who'd spent decades curating her image as a pillar of Seattle's social elite, found herself shunned. Invitations to galas and charity luncheons dried up, replaced by polite excuses and awkward silences. The couple sold their sprawling suburban home in Bellevue, downsizing to a modest condo in a less glamorous part of town. Ethan, the golden child, felt the ripples most acutely. His luxury condo in downtown Seattle, funded by his parents' generosity, was sold to cover legal fees. His lifestyle, once filled with designer suits, exclusive clubs, and weekend getaways, crumbled. He bounced between jobs, his charm no longer enough to open doors. The title of only child had lost its luster, replaced by a quiet shame that followed him like a shadow. Sophia heard through Laura that Ethan had tried to reach out to her. But his messages, vague apologies, half-hearted explanations, never arrived. She didn't care. Her fight wasn't against him, but against the lie that had erased her. Yet, not all bridges were burned. Some relatives, once complicit in their silence, began to reach out. Her cousin Rachel, who'd sat quietly at the family dinner where Sophia revealed the truth, sent a heartfelt email. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. You didn't deserve this." Rachel started volunteering at Sophia's nonprofit, her presence a small but meaningful step toward reconciliation. Laura, too, became a steadfast ally, donating to Sophia's cause and spreading word of her work. Others followed, uncles, family friends, even distant cousins, who'd once turned away now offered support. Some with words, others with actions. They weren't her family by blood alone anymore. They were bound by something stronger, a shared recognition of truth. 6 months after the verdict, the Tacoma apartment was officially returned to Sophia. The deed, now in her name, felt like a key to a door she'd long been locked out of. The apartment wasn't just a property, it was Eleanor's legacy, a symbol of the love and trust her grandmother had placed in her. Sophia sat in the living room, the same space where she and Eleanor had shared cups of chamomile tea and stories of resilience. The walls, though faded, held memories of a woman who'd seen Sophia's worth when no one else did. With the rental income from the apartment, Sophia founded the Eleanor Project, a nonprofit dedicated to children escaping abuse and domestic violence. The organization offered a safe haven, a shelter where kids could find warmth, meals, and counseling, and a scholarship program for those seeking education as a way out. Launching it was grueling. Sophia spent late nights drafting grant proposals, meeting with donors, and coordinating volunteers. But after surviving the betrayal of her family, fear no longer held her back. She was building something real, something hers. The Eleanor Project became a beacon in Tacoma. Volunteers poured in, teachers, social workers, even former clients who'd found stability and wanted to give back. Donors, moved by Sophia's story, contributed generously, their checks accompanied by notes of admiration. One afternoon, a young girl at the shelter, no older than 10, handed Sophia a paper flower she'd folded during an art therapy session. "I'm glad I'm here," the girl said shyly. "Can I come back tomorrow?" Sophia knelt down, her smile warm. "Of course you can. This is your place now." The words, ones she'd once longed to hear from her own family, now flowed freely from her to others. She'd found a new family, not bound by genetics, but by purpose and care. One crisp autumn day, as Sophia sorted through legal documents at the Eleanor Project's small office, Thomas stopped by. He carried a manila envelope, his expression unreadable. "This came through the Bennett's legal representative," he said, handing it to her. "They requested it be returned to you." Inside was a velvet pouch, and nestled within was Eleanor's antique silver brooch, the one Margaret had taken for Ethan, claiming it belonged to her only grandson. There was no note, no apology, just the brooch, its intricate design catching the light. Sophia held it in her palm, her fingers tracing the delicate curves. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry, it was Eleanor's love, crossing time and betrayal to find her again. She didn't cry. Instead, a quiet lightness settled in her chest. She hadn't forgiven her parents or Ethan, not yet. Maybe not ever, but the weight of their actions no longer defined her. She'd freed herself, not by winning a battle, but by choosing to live beyond it. The brooch, now pinned to her jacket, became a reminder. She was enough, just as she was. The Eleanor Project grew steadily. its impact rippling through the community. Local newspapers ran features on Sophia's work, calling her a quiet force for change. At a fundraising gala, she stood before a crowd of supporters, her voice steady as she shared her vision. Every child deserves a place where they're seen, valued, and safe. That's what we're building here. The room erupted in applause. And for the first time, Sophia felt the kind of recognition she'd never sought but always deserved. Her supporters weren't just donors, they were her chosen family. People who saw her for who she was, not who she'd been forced to be. Meanwhile, the Bennett household continued its decline. James's consulting work barely kept them afloat, and Margaret's attempts to salvage her social standing fell flat. Ethan, now working a mid-level sales job, had shed the arrogance that once defined him. Sophia heard he'd started therapy, grappling with the truth of his family's actions. She didn't wish him ill, but she no longer felt obligated to fix his world. Her focus was forward, on the children who needed her, on the life she was building. One evening, as Sophia locked up the shelter, a volunteer approached her. "You've done something incredible here," he said. "You turned pain into purpose." Sophia smiled, the brooch glinting under the streetlights. "I didn't do it alone," she replied, and she meant it. The Eleanor Project wasn't just her victory, it was a testament to the power of truth, the strength of community, and the quiet, inevitable force of justice. Sophia Bennett was no longer a ghost. She was a woman standing in her own light, her name spoken with pride, her worth undeniable. And as she walked home through the Tacoma streets, the rain-soaked air felt like a promise. This life was hers, and she would never let anyone take it away again.